It was a cool autumn evening when Claire and her family arrived at the old Victorian house they'd inherited from her grandmother. The house had always been a place of mystery in the family. Grandmother rarely spoke about it, and those who had lived there before her had all moved out with strange, unexplained stories. The house was large, with creaky wooden floors and antique furniture covered in white sheets. The air inside felt heavy, almost as if it was holding on to old memories. Claire's parents were eager to get settled, but Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her. That night, as Claire lay in bed, she heard soft whispering, as though voices were calling her name. She sat up, heart pounding, but the house was quiet again. She brushed it off as her imagination, a trick of the old house settling. But the whispers came again the next night. The whispers faded, but the feeling of being watched never left her. She didn't stop running until she reached the ground floor, where her parents were anxiously waiting. "What happened?" her father asked, eyes wide with concern. "We heard you scream." "I saw something," Claire stammered, trying to catch her breath. "I saw Grandma, but it wasn't her. It was a ghost. A warning. The mirror, it's not just a mirror." Her parents exchanged a confused glance. "It's late, Claire. You must be tired from the move. Let's get you to bed." But Claire couldn't shake the feeling. The mirror, with its sinister whispers, was still there, waiting. And deep down, she knew that the ghost of her grandmother hadn't just come to warn her. She'd come to help Claire make a choice. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She lay awake, listening to the wind outside, her mind racing. The whispers were gone, but the whispers came again the next night. This time they were clearer. "Claire, Claire." Shivers ran down her spine. She crept out of bed and followed the sound. The whispers seemed to lead her down the long hallway toward the old attic door, which had always been locked. Her curiosity got the best of her, and she found the key hidden in the kitchen drawer, tucked beneath a pile of unused tea towels. With trembling hands, Claire unlocked the door and slowly crept up the narrow staircase. The attic was dusty, filled with forgotten furniture and boxes of old things. But there, in the corner, was an antique mirror, covered in a dusty sheet. Claire hesitated but pulled the sheet off. As soon as the mirror was uncovered, she felt an icy chill. The air seemed to freeze around her, and the whispers grew louder, now accompanied by a low, unsettling hum. Claire's reflection in the mirror didn't match her movements. She could see herself standing in front of it, but her reflection remained still, staring back at her with hollow eyes. Terrified, Claire stepped back, but her reflection didn't move. It continued to stare at her, its expression slowly shifting into a sinister smile. Claire's breath caught in her throat as she felt an unnatural force pull her toward the mirror. She struggled, but it was as if invisible hands were gripping her, forcing her closer and closer. Suddenly, she heard a voice, not from the mirror, but from behind her. "Get away from it now!" Claire spun around, and there stood her grandmother, but not as Claire remembered her. This version of her was pale, with an almost ethereal glow. Her grandmother's face was filled with deep sorrow, and her eyes, wide with urgency, locked onto Claire's. "Grandmother?" Claire whispered, her voice trembling. Her grandmother nodded, her gaze flickering to the mirror. "It's not just a mirror, Claire. It's a doorway to something darker. I tried to protect you from it, but it's too late. That thing in the mirror, it's been waiting for someone like you." Claire's heart raced as the whispers turned into an eerie chant. "Come closer. Join us." Her grandmother stepped forward, placing a hand on Claire's arm. "You must never let it take you. This house is cursed. I tried to break the curse, but it was too powerful. That mirror has a mind of its own, feeding on those who are drawn to it. The only way to escape it is to leave and never return." But why didn't you tell me?" Claire asked, tears welling up in her eyes. "I couldn't," her grandmother whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I thought I could protect you, but it's too strong. You were meant to find it. You were meant to break the curse." The mirror now began to vibrate, and the air was thick with an unnatural presence. Claire could feel something cold and menacing creeping up her spine, pulling at her thoughts. Her grandmother's figure started to fade, her voice becoming a distant echo. "Claire, you must leave." Suddenly, Claire snapped out of her trance-like state. She could hear the frantic beating of her heart, feel the weight of the moment, and she understood. The mirror was calling her, but it was a call to doom. With every ounce of strength, Claire ran toward the door, slamming it shut behind her. The whispers faded, but the feeling of being watched never left her. The whispers were gone, but the fear still lingered. She wondered if the mirror was still in the attic, if it was waiting for her to return. But as much as she wanted to be rid of it, she knew she had to face it. The next day, with determination in her heart, Claire gathered the courage to go back up to the attic. The mirror stood there, dark and silent now, as if it had never moved. She stood before it, staring into her own reflection, and whispered, "I'm not afraid of you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the whispers returned, faint, soft, almost like a distant lullaby. But Claire's reflection remained still, watching her with calm, understanding eyes. And just like that, the darkness that had once consumed the mirror began to fade. The whispers disappeared, leaving only an eerie silence. The curse had been broken. From that day forward, Claire knew she would never forget her grandmother's warning, nor the strange and haunted house she had inherited. But she also knew that the courage to face her fears had given her the strength to set herself free. And the mirror, it was gone, replaced with nothing but the quiet memories of a night that would forever change her.